Hey everybody, Frank Barry here with another episode coming to you live on Modern Church Leader. It's Wednesday. We're doing it on a different day this week, but we've got a great guest lined up. Super excited to talk to all of you church leaders. It looks like we've already got hundreds of folks hopping on, checking out the show. So excited about that. Definitely use the comments. We'd love to take some live comments or live questions today during the show. And we're here just to talk about doing church a year later, right? So we're a year into the pandemic. It is March 10th, actually. So I think it was March 15th or so that lockdowns went in order. So we're a year in. We're going to have a great chat with a good buddy of mine about doing church a year later. So with that said, let me bring in Christian Ray. Hey, Christian, how's it going, man?
What's up, Frank?
It's good to see you.
And you as well.
Christian, before we kind of jump into the meat, you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, also a church leader and pastor. You're out in Austin, Texas. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background?
I am a severely confused individual professionally. So I call it professional ADD. So I, originally started as an artist, performer, producer, and I went in ministry. I became a Christian in about 95. 2 years later, I basically just focused on ministry and started, leading churches all over. And so I do a lot of mission work, a lot of charity work as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very passionate about serving the poor. We work in Africa and Mozambique specifically. We have a little after-school academy that we're developing.
Yeah.
Missions internationally in different countries like Russia, Ukraine, and Latin America as well. And business-wise, I own a company called Third Drive, and we do venture development. So we help businesses grow, startups, etc., and do basically sort of provide things that they need to get to the next level. Mm-hmm. And we also have a digital media side of things where we do everything from branding, print, web, video, sort of an integrated approach, world-class digital agency type stuff. And we do it for churches as well. So,
yeah, love that. And you pastor a church out in Texas. So,
yes, we started a little community here in Austin, Texas called Tribe about 8 years ago, and it was like a group of us who wanted to do something different, something fresh, something that we felt passionate about, and we've been going strong. And we just planted another one just right before COVID hit. We planted another community church in the east side of Austin, Texas.
Perfect timing, huh?
Yeah. I can tell you a lot about that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's right. Well, man, it's been a year, so we're give or take, 12 months into COVID-19 here in 2021, March 10th of 2021. How's the church? How's Tribe doing? What's the vibe 12 months later?
Well, there are things that are going extremely well, right? With the backdrop of people hurting on one level or another, right? Isolation takes a toll. Mm-hmm. Financial stress sometimes if somebody was affected professionally.
Right.
It's almost like there's layers and layers of isolation plus factors that we see across the board in our country, and it affects the church as well, right? So you see some people hurting. I think mental illness is going to be a challenge in general as a trend. And yet at the same time, but that's like a baseline thing for everybody. I think the cool thing that I see happening in Tribe is that because there's such a deep foundation of community connection and discipleship, a lot of those things are mitigated, right? So people have, depending on how people are open and, risk averse and non-risk averse with COVID, people connect. They didn't give up discipleship. They meet every week. They are in each other's lives. They share each other's burdens. They either come to service on Sunday or they tune in. So all of that is, I'm really proud of our community that way, because people fit in each other's lives, and it's just wonderful because all of those layers of pressure, anxiety, et cetera, uncertainty get lifted or at least eased by discipleship and community.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I love that. It's like, if you take a step back, COVID messed up big time the ability to meet as a church in a building, and certainly made it harder in a lot of ways to meet even as individuals. But people could still stay in each other's lives. We could still call each other, do Zoom meetings, meet at the park, wear masks, social distance, but we could still be around each other, and the small group communities could still encourage one another, love up on each other, carry each other's burdens, all the things that you're referring to. And that's the church. It's not the fact that we're in a building on Sunday morning.
Yes, exactly. I do think that sort of the temple court setting of meeting together in person as a community, as a meeting of the body stuff, is really an important factor. Even if, regardless of what is it that it's limiting this, right? So that's sort of, there's a tension there between what is good for the church, for the health of the church, and what the limiting factor is, right? In this case is a pandemic. Right? We've been around for 2,000 years, okay? And we've seen many limiting factors in 2,000 years.
Right.
And I think sort of one of our big things is that we really push for in-person meetings. Responsible, distanced, masked, anything we can do to de-risk it. We pushed for inspired, encouraged people. Look, this is the meeting of the body, the meeting in person all together, is an important element that you can't replicate that in a small group or in a one-on-one environment or in a Zoom call.
Or a Zoom meeting. Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So did you guys, when things went into lockdown, did you stop meeting in person for a period of time and kick up a church online experience?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And
we did. It was probably from February to about June, from March rather, because we started in March.
Yeah.
And then in June we started doing hybrid meetings where we were in person and streaming at the same time.
Okay, got it. And your meeting, we were talking before, and you're having church in the park essentially. So kind of as much as you can, keeping it outdoors, keeping people as safe as they can, but trying to get everyone together.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's correct. That's what we did.
Are you doing church online as well? Like, are you streaming anything?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
How are you doing it? Talk us through how, because I think it's a new challenge for churches, right? Before COVID, most churches, not every church, but certainly if there's 350,000 churches in the US, most of them were doing church in the building and they weren't streaming. Maybe at the most they had like a single camera in the back on like a Mevo or something like that, was like, was going to Facebook Live. They were doing very basic. But now every church had to go to church online. And fast forward to today, churches are starting to meet back in the building, or they're doing hybrid, environments, but it's like they still want to do church online, or maybe they're faced with the challenge of, how do I keep doing church online but also do church in the building? It's a whole new set of skills and time and energy and volunteers and all that. So how are you guys doing it?
Well, I mean, let me ask you this: are you asking technically, philosophically, the ministry aspect, the technical aspect, the design aspect,
all of it? Give me tell us what you're doing. If you're meeting in person and hybrid, and why. Like, why do you? If you're keeping up the online experience, why are you doing that? And then what's the point? And then let's talk about like how practically you're pulling it off.
Okay, so we're absolutely streaming everything. As a matter of fact, we do live streams in the middle of the week where we unpack, me and my associate pastor, Elias, we unpack the Sunday message in more detail and just look at it at different angles. So we're sort of augmenting the meeting of the body in person thing with all kinds of media around it. So why we do it? Well, we do it because, there are very beloved members of the community who can't make it. They're maybe at risk, maybe they're risk averse at the time, and we want them to at least have a virtual experience, even if it's not the full experience. That's why we do it. Now, philosophically, we went from really have a high level of production to actually simplifying it and making it more basic when it comes to Sunday streaming. And the reason for that is because the risk of doing, and I own a digital media company, so obviously I have the gears to create the full experience. But as a media guy, I have the capacity to do this. Right. I have the gear, I have the people, I have the ability to do this. As a pastor, I'm torn because I can do excellent digital media work and streaming experiences and high-level productions, but I don't want my church to be a church of consumers. And that's the risk so that's the spectrum, I guess, right? It's like, so we actually scaled down our streaming production, so to say. So it's not produced. It's just straightforward. Look, this is the bare minimum if you're at risk and if you can't come for whatever reason. But we're not gonna create this experience and try to make you, sort of make you addicted to the overproduced product, essentially, a service. Like, we're not a service provider. We don't in our church, we don't want consumers. We want disciples, followers of Christ who serve each other. So
love that.
That's a philosophical side of things, right?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I think, every church is kind of faced with that, right? And I'm not sure. I think every pastor wants engaged members, right, that are not just consumers, but they're living out their faith. They're active in the community. They're serving each other, loving each other, being together, all the things. So I don't think anybody would disagree.
Yeah, but you'll be surprised as someone who actually shepherds people, right? How quickly you become a consumer, how easy it is. Yeah, it's absolutely easy. Well, and how quickly you can go. You have a conversation with someone. Hey, dude, how come you're not a church? Well, I don't want to get sick. Right. Do you go to grocery stores? Do you go to restaurants? Yeah. If you can go to a restaurant, you go to church. Right. That's simple. And let me explain to you the things that you're missing out on at the meeting of the body.
Yeah. What do you think it's gonna? So I think there's a thing that is happening. It's kind of what you're describing, where for a year, in some cases, not in every case, but for some number of months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, people have been doing church online. And then churches are going to open May, June, July, whenever it is, right? It's coming, it's pending. Churches are going to be fully open. Sure. Yeah. Vaccines are out. It is now safe. Whatever month that is, right? Like summer months or a little bit after. But there's people that are getting super comfortable, like doing church online. And I don't know, how do you think about that? And how do you think about getting everyone back, in the building, if you will, and coming out of that online?
Well, I don't know how it's best for your church or whoever's listening, right? For me, I do this not because I have to do this, not because it's a job, but because it's a calling. And my passion is to give people, hopefully equip people for a life that was given to me by someone else. People invested in me, mentored me, and I have an amazing life that I don't deserve. Yeah, and I want to pass that along. So if I look at it from that standpoint, what it requires is to call people to be responsible, to be grown-ups, obviously, to understand their risks, but also to understand that you are called to a life of selfless service and to a life of carrying your cross, to a life of denying yourself. And it's so easy, it's in our nature, deeply in our nature, to become complacent. It's deeply in our nation to become to lean towards convenience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to get comfortable and
and then in your mind you rationalize why you did that.
Right.
It's not a real thing. So our job, spiritually speaking, as everybody, I mean every Christian, is to call somebody else to obedience.
Right.
For Christ. So the way I do it, I basically say, look, let's look at 2,000 years and how many events happened that were risky for people when it comes to meeting together.
Yeah.
Plagues, you were at risk of being arrested many times, die. People dug complexes of tunnels underground which we call the catacombs, to meet together and worship together in risky, situations.
Yep.
And they're still there. We go on tours to see the heart, the passion, and the value of meeting of the body, of collective worship, of the temple courts dimension. So that's what I say. I basically say, look, this is what we've done for 2,000 years. These are some of the patterns that we see. Even with health, sort of, you go, well, this is new. Nothing is complete. There's nothing new under the sun. Okay,
right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
During the plague, Christians, everybody would flee the town to save their lives. Christians would stay and take care of the sick and die, trying to serve somebody else. How are we related to those people? Can we correlate that? With. So that's what I basically say. I go, look, obviously we don't want to be foolish. We're not really asking. We're not trying to get sick. We're not trying to be irresponsible. But where is what trumps what, right? In your life individually.
Right. Yeah. It's good, man. Good stuff. What's something, I guess, kind of in this whole mix, what's something you wish you knew at the beginning, back in March 2020 when this all hit? Now that we're a year in,
I wish I knew it would last more than a month.
You wish you knew it actually be a year long, or maybe 18 months long by the time we got it.
Yeah, we were like, well, we'll be back in July. It's all good. So it's, who knew, right? It's crazy.
Hope deferred. Just kept going.
Yeah. But I think there's definitely advantages, and I think I'm just grateful that we just happen to be in the digital media space,
right,
professionally, right? So, but I think how many churches just weren't prepared, right? How many churches didn't have the vehicles to tell their story unless people just are driving down the street and see the church building.
Right.
They didn't have websites, they didn't have branding, they didn't have messaging, they didn't have videos, they didn't have the gear, they didn't have the skills. It's just unbelievable. So I think this year showed thousands of churches that they were behind the curve in a painful way.
Right.
Things that you should proactively learn and lean into, people were forced to deal with just reactively. But that's better than nothing, in my opinion, right?
I mean, every church got the School of Hard Knocks education in doing things online, not just church online, but all the things like social media, websites, and church online, and email, and text messaging, and apps, and all the stuff. Like, churches had to go, get exposure to all those things and start to learn how to use some of them. And
also get a line item in the budget. What a concept.
Yeah. That's true,
right? Because Third Drive does websites and branding and messaging and video for churches. We do it as a service, and it's the shift is very notable between the before and after COVID. Before, people would talk to us and say, "So what do we?" It was really more. It would be nice to have. Right. It wasn't a must-have at the time, and it was. And when I would say, look, you need an actual budget line item to do it well. You need to hire people. You need to do professional work, just like any other organization that wants to be known out there. The before, it was people just balked at that and didn't want to. They were like, well, can't I just get a campus student to do something for me for free, right, and have this member who knows how to draw, that kind of thing,
right?
And then the after, I think it was a massive shift from that to, yes, we're going to spend on this. This matters. This tells our story to the world, and that's definitely one of the incredible byproducts that is a positive byproduct.
Yeah. What have you seen? Kind of switching hats from your pastor to your business owner, kind of church media side of what you do. Of all the things that churches can do online, what have you seen them, or what have you interacted with them the most around? Is it their website, or is it their email list, or is it, what is it that you're spending?
I think the two top things is website, because they realize that the website doesn't answer the questions that people are asking. People are asking emotional questions, and we just don't know that, right? So people are asking, are people happy in this community? Are people connected? Is there people in my generation?
Right.
Is this a contemporary thing? Is this a modern thing? Is this people of my race? Can I see diversity? There's all emotional questions. Will I feel welcomed here? Because it's awkward to go to a new place, right? Those are emotional questions. And most church websites answer informational questions. Where do we meet? What do we believe? Who's the lead pastor? Et cetera, et cetera. So there's this huge gap there in between. So I think a lot of the attention from a business standpoint was into how do you tell your story online beyond just using a basic template, and how do you infuse it with your identity, your spirit, this community. And then the second one that's related to that is video. Obviously, video component blew up as a need, both as almost like an introduction to the church, from the church to the world that goes everywhere, social media, website, everywhere. And About Us video, the need for that, well done. And also for video in general, right? So the streaming dimension, the Zooming dimension, the midweek lesson workshop creation, how to create a library of those resources that is evergreen, over and over again. All of those things, I think, came to the forefront.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I like it. You kind of going back, you kind of said two things, like your church online experience evolved. You kind of went down the path early of producing kind of a highly produced experience, and then evolved into a less produced, more organic experience.
Yeah. So I guess it devolved in that aspect.
Like I guess
devolved by design. Yeah.
Yeah. But you also mentioned that you're doing kind of a midweek unpacking the lesson, and is that like a Zoom type of thing where everyone's in and you see faces and that's a big part? Okay, it's explain that. Is that like this where you're on with your associate?
So we use something very similar to what you're using platform wise, and we do two windows, and you can see the comments and it's live, right? But it's basically designed to just go, okay, here's the concept that we talked about on Sunday. Even if you didn't watch the service, here's why it's valuable for you, and this is why, and you just go deeper. So it's like even the dimension of being online and having slightly more time, and it's just that the format is different than Sunday. Sunday service, you have to sort of think a certain way as a speaker, and in a unpacking a stream episode, it's just a very different angle. So you can go deeper, you can go into tangents, and you can explore, and it's evergreen. So it's live, people can watch it, and people can watch it over and over and over again to their friends, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and this is and I'm bouncing around. It's a little bit related to like how things have evolved, and so you've seen churches focus more attention and even budget and money, websites and video and things like that. And then I'm bouncing back to your pastor role in terms of this Wednesday night or whatever night you guys do it. Do you think you'll do that in a virtual experience going forward? Like, will that be a mainstay, or will you turn that back into something that happens in the building?
I think both. So I think in general, we only do things in the building besides Sundays during the summer, so in our specific community. And the reason for that is really more of a seasonal thing, right? We have small groups. Small groups are where the magic happens. In our church, it's discipleship. It's weekly meetings, maybe bi-weekly. If it's let's say it's a group where the schedules don't allow weekly, right? But we encourage weekly, because you miss 1 week in weekly and you miss 1 week. If you miss 1 week in bi-weekly, you miss like half a month.
Right.
So the sort of the frequency and the rhythm of doing life together is really important that way. So I think in general, outside of Sunday, people live in the small group environment, and that's where the magic happens. And in the summer, two things happen. People start traveling, so it's increasingly logistically hard to get together every week. Also, we want people to sort of take a step back and go, okay, is this little group still good ongoing for me, or is this a good chapter and I need to switch to something that can enrich my life and I can reach somebody else's life? So in the summer, we switch to midweeks in the building. So I guess it's a long-winded way to explain it. So we'll do still the summer midweeks in the building, but the online stream discussions are a format that is still incredibly powerful, because you can really you can zero in on something, really unpack it, bring some experts. You can bring somebody like, you can bring Frank to talk about something very specific, that our people could enjoy, or somebody in the other side of the world, right?
Right.
We did a joint sort of thing with Africa. There's like several churches in Africa just chiming in and dropping in. Remarkable stuff.
Yeah.
So I think the online streaming stuff is here to stay. It's not here to replace the meaning of the body.
Right.
Like it's an augment.
Right. Like, I was literally thinking of the same word. It's like an augment. And I think there's an interesting piece to all of this, that churches can adopt this.
Yeah.
You still want to meet in person. Absolutely. But there's also a place for this. Like, yeah, maybe you're doing it, on Tuesday nights, you've got this great kind of Bible study, but it's with somebody else, whether it's you and your associate, or you're bringing in a guest, and you have this it's almost a new format and people can watch it from home. So it's much more convenient in terms of people doing it. So I don't know. I think there's something there that going forward, that could be a great way for churches to do both, have both of these things going.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's fantastic. The leap in the adoption of technology in churches is remarkable. It's going to actually really, pay off.
Yeah.
Because we are inherently people that resist innovation. That's just a human thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think so I would say humans in general resist innovation because it feels risky.
Yeah.
So there's types of people we call them the first adopters, that are like, I want the new thing like yesterday, but that's not the normal part of things. So there's people like that, but also there's organizations like that, right? There's organizations that their DNA sort of pushes them to adopt new things quickly, and then others whose DNA actually prevents them. And churches specifically is the type of organization that are usually behind the curve.
Right.
So I think for churches in general, it's a healthy thing.
There's like nonprofits. It's like there's business world, then there's nonprofits, then there's churches in terms of like tech adoption speed.
Yeah, churches are notoriously bad with new tech.
Yeah,
especially spending money on it and everything. So I think it's a great service to like this. The bad thing that is COVID year is a good thing for churches, because when you're forced to do something instead of like ask, do you want to do it or not? I mean, it's going to pay off in the long run for
sure. Yeah. Let's I totally agree on that. Another thing that came to mind is just what is Tithely helps churches with giving and some other tech, but what does giving look like at your church through the last year, and how has kind of going virtual and then meeting in the park and those kind of things affected just overall giving?
I'm really grateful because we, being sort of a little bit more technologically forward, we encourage people to give online. So we've been giving online. I would say over 90% of our members give online only.
Right.
Since 2012.
Got it. Okay.
So that it's now a cultural norm. You don't have to really remind people. This is just how it's done.
Right.
Which takes a while.
Already there. Like you guys, COVID hit. It was already the main way that it happened, anyways.
It was like I would probably say maybe closer to 95% is the online giving in our church. So we didn't have to make adjustments culturally because the culture was already there.
Right.
And then, I mean, obviously, from a spiritual standpoint, tithing is an act of worship in my mind. I enjoy tithing personally. I think it's really important for me to do, and I teach what it means, et cetera, et cetera. And because of the culture of the church, the giving in general did not dip in any significant way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's a slight dip due to people just sort of losing employment for a time being, et cetera. But we really didn't take a hit financially, hardly at all, which is quite remarkable.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's all. It's interesting. I've actually heard, a lot of those stories. It's obviously, there's a lot of churches, so it's not representative of, the masses. But I've heard a lot of stories of churches doing surprisingly well. Even though there's a lot of chaos and uncertainty and, just people are going through a lot of stuff, like giving has stayed strong. And that's just been encouraging because I know it, depending on, you're right, these small, like, country churches that have 50 members, that, like, if people stopped giving, like, the church doesn't exist anymore, but people have been faithful in that way. So that's cool. Okay. Last question. What do you think? Okay. We're 12 months in, we're kind of coming out of this thing. What do you think the next 12 months is going to be like for, just churches in general? Give me some predictions, some thoughts on the future.
Okay. So I'll start with the bad news. The bad news, I think this has been a devastating year, emotionally, spiritually, for many people. The bad news is going to probably get worse before it gets better when it comes to mental illness, depression, anxiety, just the very real things that wear people down. Mm-hmm. And we just went through an unprecedented level of disconnection, loneliness, for some people, financial uncertainty. On top of that, was amplified by political divisions and things like that. So the cost is going to be there. People are hurting, and people will continue to hurt, and probably going to be worse before it gets better. So that's on the downside. So I think all of us as the body of Christ, we should pay attention to the weakest parts of the body, and they take better care of people, whatever it takes, right? So that's probably, I see that on the horizon for the next, until the end of this year for sure, as a dip that we need to pay attention to this. We can't just go on with business as if a business as usual. It just doesn't work that way. We're very fragile beings, people, mm-hmm. and we need to take care of ourselves and take care of each other. Be very loving, very patient, and help each other heal, right? Get back to normal. I think on the upside, what's going to happen, I think, is the church is going to come roaring back, because people, if you stayed faithful through the COVID year, you're probably a very faithful person, and if you're a faithful person, you can't wait to be with other Christians, to get back, to make disciples and to introduce people to Christ in church, and you can't wait for physical contact. I mean, we're relational. We're built for this, right? So, like, not hugging people for a year, it's crazy, right? Yeah. Not speaking to many people that you care about. So I think the church is going to come roaring back in joy and fellowship and excitement, and I can't wait to see what the Holy Spirit does. Right. So.
Yeah. Are you guys planning? I know you guys have a handful of locations in Austin. Mm-hmm. Are you already kind of planning a big, congregational, get everyone together type of event in, I don't know, June or July or something like that?
I think we're planning a park service. That's what we're trying to map out. I think there's logistical limitations to that. Right. So that's one thing. I think we have been already meeting in person in 3 different locations in Austin since June, right? So it was a drip first, and then it was more and more. So we have probably, right now we're like 2/3 of people are meeting in person, right? In a responsible way, etc. But I think by fall we're planning a marriage retreat that is in person. That's going to be awesome, right? Yeah. I think by fall that would be my prediction. Is a big congregational, three different community churches together.
Right, where everyone, 100% of people can get together. Like, we have 5 locations in San Diego, and just getting everyone together. We're doing park services, and it's great, but it's still different,
it is, it is.
Awesome in its own
so
way.
We need a celebration, right?
Yeah, there's got to be a big party when everybody can feel safe and we're allowed to kind of meet in the building, those kind of things. So, man, this has been awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks for jumping on today and sharing just your experience and your insights with the audience here.
Thank you, Frank, and for all this audience that is listening right now. Actually, it was a strange thing, because we booked me being on Frank's podcast and then Frank being on my podcast called Third Drive Stage.
It's tomorrow.
Yeah. So after this whole long break, I'm gonna have Frank on my, and if you want to tune in, there's actually 2. One is Third Drive Stage. It's a great podcast. It's really more focused on exceptional lives, and how to navigate life in general. And then we're launching a new one that is more sort of Christian based called the Tribe Exchange. And we have pre-recorded several really, really cool podcasts already. It's going to be launched pretty soon, probably next week.
Where people go? Like, should they go to thirddrive.co or what?
Yeah, so for you can go thirddrivestage.com for like the collection of everything, but we're everywhere. So everywhere where there's podcasts, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes podcast, Spotify, Third Drive Stage is there. Just Google Third Drive Stage and you'll find it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So,
awesome. Third Drive Stage. Check it out, everybody. Well, Christian, this has been awesome. Everybody that joined today, thank you. Thank you for everyone in the comments. We've been watching those. Make sure to share this episode, on Facebook or YouTube, just to kind of spread the message. Hopefully there was some good insights that you guys picked up.
Yeah, if you're a church leader and you need Third Drive's help to do digital media, give us a shout out. We'll help you out.
100%. Thirddrive.co. Christian helps folks with websites and video and email and all things digital. So
yes, we do.
You guys can pop over there. Well, cool, man. Thanks, Christian. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll catch you all next week.
A pleasure.